Hello, everyone, and welcome to our panel. My name is Malu Gracia, and I serve as an NX Unite team member at Nexus Marketing and your moderator for today's panel. Today's panel topic is checking all the boxes, what to consider when planning your association's next big event. As usual, before I introduce today's panelists and we jump into this fascinating topic, I do have some quick logistics to cover. NX Unite by Nexus Marketing serves as a powerful community resource designed to foster connections and facilitate lasting relationships within the mission-driven sector. On NX Unite, you can find upcoming industry events, suggested influencers to follow, trusted solutions, and cost-driven podcasts. NX Unite also hosts webinars, demos, and of course, panels with experts such as these lovely folks with me here today. Today's hour-long panel will include time both for questions curated by my team and questions from you all, our fantastic audience. At any time during the panel, please feel free to submit your questions via the questions tab, or you can drop them in the chat if you want. We will spend the second half of the panel addressing as many as we possibly can. If you're having any technical difficulties or have any logistics questions, my team member Anton is in the chat under the Team NX Unite username, ready to assist you the best he can. I also wanted to share that this panel is being recorded, so for those of you watching live, the recording will be sent to your email automatically after the session ends. People can also continue to register and access the recording after the panel, so if you have any friends in the industry you want to share the insights from this panel with, simply send them that same registration page and they will be able to access the recording. Finally, before I introduce today's panelists, I want to thank you all for attending this panel. We're very excited to be in touch with you, the mission-driven community. Thank you for taking the time to be with us today to learn from these outstanding experts who I will now finally introduce. All right, jumping into introductions, I'd like to first introduce Maria Ramos, who is the Director of Meetings and Events at Talley. She has over 20 years in the meetings industry and has produced events, meetings, and conventions spanning the social, medical, and trade association industries. Her expertise is in creating and implementing standard operating logistical procedures for events. Now, as director, she leads a talented team of planners to deliver exceptional service to clients. Thank you so much for joining us, Maria.
Thank you for having me.
Also with us is Rachel Stefan, who is the Snowballer-in-Chief at Snowball. She's a strategic thinker, creative idea generator, and an event industry speaker. Rachel provides strategic input and guidance, as well as create, develop, and deliver integrated marketing campaigns for nonprofit and corporate organizations locally, nationally, and abroad. Great to have you, Rachel.
Good to be here. Thank you for having me.
Of course. Also with us today is Rusty Williams, who is the co-founder at AnswerStage, a Boston provider of automated video collection and production services. With the rapid growth of video for marketing and education, AnswerStage works with clients to automatically collect, brand, and produce videos to promote events, serve as testimonials, and showcase expertise. Thanks for joining us, Rusty.
Thank you. I'm thrilled to be here.
And finally with us is Vinyu Dishetty, who is the CEO and founder at Ava. She brings over 20 years of experience working with conferences, meetings, and events. As a meeting planner, she understands the hurdles her industry peers encounter on a daily basis. As a techie, she knows that there are tools and tricks of the trade to help organizations overcome the unknowns of what will happen next. So glad to have you, Vinyu.
Excited to be here.
All right, now it's finally time to hear from our panelists. And Rusty, I'll have you start us off with the first question. What are the key considerations associations should keep in mind when planning their next major event? And how have these considerations evolved in the age of digital and hybrid conferences?
Well, I think first off, what are the key considerations? I think it's who can I meet and what can I learn. Like it's been that for a long time. I think it'll continue to be that going forward. The question is, how do you highlight those benefits? How do you make people feel like this is worth allocating a few days of my time and a lot of money to travel to be there if it's in person, or a few hours of my time if it's hybrid? So I mean, to me, it's all about those key things. What is it I can walk away with that will help me going forward in a very tangible and strategic way for my, for building my association's membership, revenues, activities, other things. So yeah, there's a bunch of people on the panel here that I know quite well, and I see very often the term FOMO. What is it you can do to make people feel like they really have to be there? The fear of missing out on something that is an in-person or an experience that others are enjoying or others are benefiting from, and you're not. So that, to me, that's highlighting the people who will be there, what you can learn from them, and what you can learn from the curriculum or the panels that are part of the conference.
I completely agree there.
How has that changed over time? I'm not sure that that's changed a lot, other than that we have new digital tools to highlight those characteristics.
Wonderful. Thanks, Rusty, for starting us off. Yes, Maria?
Oh, no, I was just saying there, and I apologize for trying to cut you off there, Rusty. I completely agree with you. It's what's in it for me when people decide whether or not to go to an event, right? And other considerations because of that, and especially after the pandemic of what we went through, I also take a look at the timing of how long are our events taking, right? How long are they happening for? Are people wanting to go out for a 4 or 5 day conference, or is it less time that they're attending at our conference? And with that, it is the difference, not the difference, but networking versus content, right? Everybody wants to go and meet people, but everyone wants their content. And how much are we giving of both? Is it more content in person as well as networking, or are we offering more of the content online, virtually, that they can get to after they attend the event, and really taking that opportunity for people to network in person?
That's a great point, Maria, because I see the idea of where to deliver the content. Does it have to be in person, all of it, or is it best delivered online experiences and then capitalize on the in-person? I mean, also having gone through the pandemic and a lot of shift in workplaces where a lot of it is remote, so we're more and more secluded in our own spaces to be able not to connect with other people. So the importance of meeting in person is a big value and needs to be also emphasized from the association side of, this event is about bringing you to reconnect and be able to connect with people, not work by yourself, most of the time. And I've seen also some clients mention, depending on the industry too, like it depends, if it's a medical conference, if it's different types of industries, there is a shift. Yes, everybody's going to in-person, but I've heard it like this week was really interesting. It's like they're cutting down on the in-person and doing more online because, if it's in the medical industry, doctors are in their offices and their practices. So they're taking less time to go in person, but they have a very high consumption of the on-demand for that particular conference or that content. So, for them, it's a whole different strategy for them. So it's really about the association meeting their members where they are and what the needs are and what shifted throughout these past couple of years, and how did you shift your strategy to accommodate a little bit their needs.
I love the fact that we talk about FOMO messaging, determining whether virtual, in-person, hybrid, but it really comes down to, before you do any of that, is knowing who you have not only in your target list, but also who's going to come, who's your members, who's not your members, and all of that is in your data. I'm the data geek here. So I want to go back to that data and take a look at who is really going to be interested in this event, or who do I want to target? Who do I want to attract? And then from there, as a foundation, start that as the place to start before you get into messaging, before you get into what format, because the data is going to tell you all sorts of secrets.
That's wonderful. All right, we're off to a great start. And Maria, I'll have you start us off with the next question. Incorporating technology into events can enhance attendee experience. What are some innovative ways associations are leveraging tech to engage and connect with event participants?
You know, there's so much out there coming at us fast and furious, especially with with AI coming into our workplace, into our everyday lives. You know, you can now have AI as on your iPhone, as in your messages and everything, and it can create the text for you. But I really see what I have seen, and what I thought was really neat, is the way associations are incorporating AI. For instance, I went to an event over the summer, and they had a text message feature where you would text message, I believe they named her Betty or someone, and you can ask Betty questions. You know, what time is the welcome reception? And she automatically came back with the time and date and location of of the welcome reception. Or, you know, what are the sessions on, you know, whatever topic you wanted. And she can list off a couple of the sessions that were happening that day or that time. And although it wasn't perfect, it was really helpful to use it for those just general information questions that you would otherwise have to search online on an FAQ or go up and ask somebody. So it was just, you know, we are in the time of everything has to be in your hands and accessible to you right there and then. And I thought that was really innovative way to integrate AI.
Thanks, Maria. Rachel, over to you. What are some innovative ways associations can use tech to engage and connect with event participants?
I bring it back to networking and connecting with people, because the whole point of coming together at events is really about who's going to be there and be able to connect with them. And the content for me becomes secondary. It's, you know, I've been to a few events usually, and then I always look to who is going to be there first before the content, because I feel the content I can get it after or later, and I won't get the chance to be in the same room as that. So any technology that will allow me to discover or see who else is going to be there, be able to connect with them, networking, matchmaking based on AI, or even matchmaking based on common interests and topics. You know, one of the ones that I really like is the brain dates technology, where it's curated content from the different participants, where you can have your mini huddles and mini connections on site, or even in virtual, to connect around the topic. So it kind of breaks a little bit the ice already, because you already have a topic in common or an interest there, as opposed to walking up to somebody like you have no idea who they are. The other thing also, like, you know, Rusty is gonna like that one, is video curation and video giving a voice to their members, giving a voice to their speakers, giving a voice to their community, the people who are there. So you're no longer just the association, only one broadcasting and talking about what you're doing, but giving a voice also to your members, to hear them and hear their different points of views and different insights, because knowledge doesn't only come from the speakers. I'm sure the people who are in the chat here today, I mean, there's lots of them that, you know, we can invite them on stage and have a chat with them. They have a lot to share as well. We're not the only expert. I'll speak to myself. I'm not the only expert. I'm sure there's lots of knowledge and insights with people around. So it's a matter of also allowing and enabling others to be able to share and participate.
Thanks, Rachel. All right, Rusty, same question over to you. What are some innovative ways associations are leveraging tech to engage and connect with event participants?
Well, Rachel's right. I love the point you just made, and really do believe in it. That You can have experts up on a stage, but if you don't give voice to the people who are coming and attending and eager to meet each other, I think you've kind of losing out on a big opportunity and a big reason why they'll be there. So one option, like the service we provide, is to collect videos where people can comment on trends. They can talk about what they're looking forward to. They're talking about who they are, what their interests are. That will help with matchmaking. That will help with event promotion. And so those kind of things, I think, help a lot. And we've had some clients take those videos of other people well beyond the panelists and turn them into a video wall. So as you walk in, you see some of the faces that you'll be meeting as you enter a conference, and you get a sense of the broader set of personalities and expertise right off the bat. So, and I really like the idea of starting to use AI to help in the matchmaking at that layer as well. To be honest, I don't know all the technology that's evolving right there, and we'll be looking into it, but it makes a ton of sense that AI is best used for how do we make help real people meet other real people rather than synthesize something that is just is pure artificial. We want it to be real, and that's really, I think, where the kinds of meetings and conferences and gatherings and events that we're talking about shine.
Thanks, Rusty. Yes, Benya?
I was just going to say, there's also, it's not just about AI. We've all been playing with all sorts of different tech. An event planner or meeting planner can use anywhere from 9 to 15 different apps. And that's kind of crazy, right? To not only produce a conference, but also for your attendees who are engaging with that. That can be kind of a little bit troublesome, a little worrisome, like, where's my password? Where am I going to do this? So I think I see a lot of associations stepping back and taking a look at what their tech stack is in the event world. What do I have? What am I using it for? And how does it all work together? And really, I know we're pushing the limits on what event planners and meeting planners are supposed to do, but we are, that the industry has come to a point where we are asking those planners, think about the tech piece of it. You're the end user. You don't have to be a techie to sit down and think about those things. But I'm loving how nowadays I'm seeing a lot of associations also getting outside of the ballroom. It's no longer 2 or 3 days of an in-person conference. It's what can I do in advance of that conference to make people, to encourage people to get to know each other. They come to the conference in person. And then how do you keep that alive afterwards, whether it's through community forums, matchmaking, networking rooms? There's so many just different ways the associations are going out there and experimenting with what's going to work for them. It's an exciting time.
It is. That's fantastic insight, Vinyu. All right, very quickly, I'd like to remind our live audience to start submitting your questions at any time so we can address the topics that are relevant to you and your team. All right, here's our next question. And Rachel, I'll have you start us off with this one. When evaluating the benefits of hosting a hybrid conference, what metrics or criteria should associations prioritize to measure success? And how can they adapt their strategies based on these insights?
Interesting question. I know Vinu loves data and analytics, and I'm sure she's dying to answer that one. But I'll throw in some points there, and then I'll leave it to Vinu. I think she has more to say. Because for me, the measurement for us when we come in usually to work with the organizers, we're measured on pre-event, on driving attendance to the event. So obviously, the metrics that we're helping them with are more the conversion trends and what are they looking at in terms of adoption for the campaigns, and how are they seeing those attendance rates go up leading up to the events. And the ones that we're seeing like closer and closer to the events are people waiting to the last minute to register. So that's always nerve-wracking, and it hasn't changed, and I think it's even getting shorter and shorter in terms of attendance. So that's one of the metrics. But the other thing is, like, when you look at the content and what you're trying to achieve as an organization, the example I mentioned earlier, what you need to look for is always looking back at what you had last time and then seeing how your members and industries are adapting and changing their needs. And like the perfect example was the one that I just mentioned, the medical association, where they're moving away from doing more in person but doing hybrid, because they saw that the metrics they were looking at, less people are going in person, more people are watching on demand, going back to watch on demand, and especially because they have credits also that they're giving the doctors for their accreditation. So those are different things. So every association has its own set of metrics that they need to look at. The key point is that they need to look at and then analyze, and because the data is there, where we have too much of it. The whole exercise is to actually analyze it and then come up with an action plan and design your next event based on what you just found. Because in most cases, we finish the event and we're just ready to move on to the next one without having to kind of step back and just look at everything that we just did to help us in the next one after.
Thanks, Rachel. All right, Maria, on to you. When considering hybrid conferences, what metrics should associations focus on to measure success?
Well, Rachel hit on a lot of them, but I think engagement metrics these days is a really big one. The session participation and past sessions of how, were the attendees engaged? How were they engaged? And was it proper for that type of content? And we're also looking at registration, like she had said in the beginning, is, not only just did they attend, how many attended, but also who attended. What generations are you getting? Are you having attend your meetings? And are you focusing the content or the engagement or networking to those generations, right? I think that's very important, because we see a bit of a shift in a lot of our industries of who is attending our events these days. So I think those are 2 very important metrics that we should be focusing on.
Thanks, Marie. All right, Vinny, over to you. What metrics should associations focus on to measure success?
I think this is like the number one question, right? I teach a class for PCMA that's event metrics and analytics, and all the students come in. How do I measure that success? And I'm like, well, what's success to you? So I like to work backwards, and we actually walk through this with the students. Define what your goals are first, and then what makes it successful to you. What's it to the board? What's it to your executives? Defining that will then help build out what data you should be looking at, what metrics you should be looking at. And Rachel, you had great points about, like, if a medical society, maybe the CEs, the number of people that passed, or a number of, or if it's networking, if how many people made those connections. So it can really vary, but start off with what the end goal is, be very clear about that, and then start figuring out what data you need to define that success.
Thanks, Vinny. All right, Rusty, we want to hear from you as well. What are your thoughts on metrics that associations should focus on to measure success?
Well, like Rachel, most of the time we're thinking about how can we help event organizers get as many people to the event as possible. So it's an attendance metric that is top of mind. But beyond that, also think it's worth thinking about an event. Most people think about an event as a specific time and date. I think it's better to think about it as a bell curve, where there's a lead up, then there's also a post event period that you'd like to make the most of. So what can you do to build out the pre and post value of the event, both for marketing and for continued learning, et cetera? So in the pre-event, what can you do to get people talking about the topics that will be presented at the event? What can you do to get them meeting each other? What can you do to help them with promotion? After the event, how can you repurpose the content that you've collected? How can you continue to get exposure through the things that have happened as part of the event? And so all those other metrics that if you can move those two sides of the bell curve up even further, the event itself, obviously you want to maximize, but it's also the other pieces that I think become really, really important. How can we maximize the engagement? the follow-on value of all the content that you get from the event.
That's wonderful, Rusty. All right, Vinny, here's our next question. As the events landscape continues to evolve rapidly, what are the most common challenges associations face when planning and executing major events? And what strategies or best practices can help them overcome these hurdles effectively?
I think we're all struggling with, are people going to come to my in-person conference, or do they really want hybrid? How do I actually plan for how many butts and seats I'm going to get, and how do I feed those people? How much coffee am I going to have? All of that. I think that is a big challenge for us, right? And one of the ways to do that is just being able to communicate and understanding. Again, it goes all back to the data and communicating with your prospective attendees and saying, what is it that you want? How do you want this content? And I think, I don't think that challenge is going to go away, because we were worrying about it for in-person events, how many people were going to come. So it's just a matter of, again, just looking at that data, asking the questions.
Thanks, Binu. All right, Rusty, over to you. What are some challenges associations commonly face when organizing big events, and how can they overcome them?
Well, I think that the most obvious challenge is, as Vinu just said, is will people show up? Will we, will this have an event that has the energy and the value that we hope it will? And there's nothing worse than planning an event and have it sort of feel like, well, what am I doing here? So the biggest challenge is making sure that you've got an audience that is interested in what you're going to be talking about, and that you express that value well enough for them to commit the time and the money that it takes to be part of it. So as far as challenges beyond that, I think Vinu basically already said it. Who is it you're trying to attract, and what is going to resonate with them? How can you get it to where they know that other people that they will enjoy being with are there, and those building those factors into your overall messaging is going to be the most important thing to do.
Thanks, Rusty. All right, Rachel, what are some common challenges associations face when organizing big events?
I would say bringing back to the people. I think maybe the resources that they would have also to do it. So shrinking teams, shrinking budgets, and trying to still hit the same goals, if not more goals than before. So that's a big challenge on the internal side of it. So how do they do more with less and be able to deliver what they need to deliver? At the same time, for the people who are coming, how do you stay relevant? How do you stay relevant as an association and to your members, and provide them with that content and that experience that they won't get anywhere else? Because now they're more demanding. There's a lot of opportunities to find stuff online. There's a lot of stuff that they are competing with. There are many communities that are built and created between each other, members or partners, or they're creating their own huddles in a way. So how is an association staying relevant to make sure that they come to their events specifically, and what is it unique about it that they are delivering to their members? I think that's existential question, I would say, for association staying relevant.
Thanks, Rachel. Yes, Maria?
Yes, no, absolutely, about staying relevant and the continuous learning and adaptation to our world today, our society, how we're staying up to date with trends and how we're keeping up, as many of our associations they have limited fixed budgets, and to be able to keep up with some of these high-tech trends of how people are learning can be difficult, right? So continuously learning and having and being able to adapt to those things. I also just want to bring into the conversation of along with being relevant, diversity, equity, and inclusion. How are we addressing it within our associations and organizations, and making sure we are, engaging all of our community, and not just kind of presenting to a atypical attendee. So always keeping that in mind and really inviting folks to the conversation of how to promote diversity, equity, and inclusion.
Thanks, Maria. All right, this is the last of my questions before opening it up to our wonderful audience. I've seen a few questions have already come in, and we have some from registration as well, but this would be the perfect time to drop those questions in the questions tab or in the chat. But before I open that door, I want to sneak in my next question. And Rachel, I'm going to have you start us off with this one. In the context of planning major events, how can associations effectively communicate the value proposition of attending their conferences, both in person and virtually, to maximize participation and engagement among their target audience?
How do they do that effectively? I mean, each organization and each event has its own community and industry where they communicate among each other in a specific channels. So understanding the why first, also of why they're doing that event and why they're doing it for their members, identifying those elements, and then finding ways to communicate that directly through the channels of the association. But again, when I look at it from the side of like the work that we do typically is that we also enable that channel, that communication to be broadcasted via the people who are already going. So we leverage in a way the speakers, that they are able to also communicate that value to their contacts in their communities. We enable the people who are registered to come to the event. They committed to come to it because they saw value of it. So if they recommend it and they spoke about it, also enable them to also post it and share it to their colleagues and friends and the people that they are connected with. That also amplifies a little bit that. So it's in a way, it's not just the association's role to communicate that one. It's everybody who committed to be part of that event to also be an amplifier of that message, a someone that is able to refer other ones similar to them to come. And it's easily kind of increases attendance and engagement to the event. It usually is social proof, and we typically do this on a natural basis. When you want to go somewhere, and first thing you know, you're gonna go ask a friend or ask someone, have you been there? Have you checked it out? What's your experience like? So it's the same concept in terms of events. So having your people registered, or your speakers or your partners being the ones that they go to, or it helps kind of increase the chances of people signing up for that one. And like we said it early when we first started, we go to events is because of who's going to be there, and then the content will be secondary. So showcasing who's going to be there is going to be also a big driver for people to kind of push them across that finish line and just click on register and commit to coming to the event.
Fantastic. Vinu, over to you. How can associations effectively communicate the value proposition of attending their conferences?
I think the one message fits all is not the case here. I think we've come to a point where we even have technology, right, to segment our audiences, to really create these personas of who's coming, because you don't have just one type of group coming. You've got several. And trying to figure out, and do you have to cater to 20 different messages? No. But figure out the main top ones, who's coming, and focus that value prop to that group. Segmentation with email marketing, social media, it's so much easier now. And you can easily do that. Again, not 20 messages, even if you started off with 2 would be a great start.
Wonderful. Maria, you're up next. Any advice on how to effectively communicate the value proposition of attending conferences when planning major events?
It's all about communicating early and often, right? We want to make sure that we've defined it for them, let them know what those opportunities are and what those value propositions are, and make sure that you're communicating it in several ways. Like Vinu was saying, no, you don't need 20 email blasted, 20 different groups, but you may be, targeting on social media to one group, and you might be targeting a reel on another, or on your LinkedIn or wherever it may be. So it's just making sure that you're engaging with all of your audiences. It can be the same message, but in just different ways and different medias.
Thanks, Maria. All right, Rusty, any additional thoughts on how associations can effectively communicate the value proposition of attending their conferences?
Yeah, so I guess I just build on this something Maria said earlier, like what's in it for me is what your audience is thinking. And that sounds sort of selfish, but that's really the way we all think. You know, what is it we can do to maximize the value of our time and the value of our activities? And so I think we think a lot about what is it you can do to learn and earn when you're attending a conference. How am I learning something, and how am I changing in a tangible monetary way my pursuits? Meaning, you know, what can I do to earn more money? How can I enhance my career? And so I think showing, illustrating stories of people like me, you know, people like, not when I say me, meaning people like who will be attending your event, how their career has been enhanced, how their earning power has been enhanced, how they've transitioned from one type of sector to another type of sector. For example, we work with a association that is for security professionals. They tell a lot of stories about their members who started in a military career and now transitioned to a civilian or public sector type of career, and how that transition took place and how that enhanced their career. So those kind of stories and those kind of highly relevant things that help them say, this is how it helps me, I think are really effective ways of promoting the event.
Thanks, Rusty. All right, we're officially opening our Q&A portion, and we'll go ahead and start off with this question. We are finding attendees are registering later and later. This can be very stressful for the planner. Any tips or tricks for enticing attendees to register earlier, aside from early bird rates, as this doesn't seem to really move the needle? Rachel, I'll have you start us off with that. Oh, you're muted. Oh, you're muted, Rachel.
Oh, I said, oh, why me? Well, I mean, what do they do to help drive registrations? Like, there's few things that could be done. I mean, this is some of the things that we see from our side too when we're helping clients with their attendee acquisition part of it. Is again, seeing like who's going to be there is very important. So when we enable, usually through Snowball, what we do, this is a plug, but hey, is to help, you know, get everybody who's coming to the event to also share the fact that they're going, the speakers and sponsors and everybody promoting and posting and creating that engagement and that FOMO of like, hey, if you see that this many people that you know about are coming to the event, you're going to say, okay, I'm missing out on something. I better check this thing out. So they do that and they get to register, and we see the numbers kind of increase. It's still like slower at the beginning, and then you see it a little bit spiking up closer to the event. That's always, you know, normal. I don't know. I've seen some group rates also, like trying to kind of get a few people from the same organization to kind of commit and go to the event. I've seen rewarding loyal attendees, like ones that have been coming for many long time. So instead of early bird, is more like there's a special price for people who have been coming for previous years in the past. So that's a great way to reward them. Usually you kind of focus a lot on the first timers, but you're not focusing on, it's like, hey, I've been a loyal customer to you for the longest time. I deserve some sort of also rebate there maybe, or some special treatment that they get to do that with. So these are my tips there. I don't know about the rest of the team members. Okay, people agree, yay.
Thanks for starting us off, Rachel. Yes, Maria?
No, I was just going to add there, obviously as the poster of the question said, the early bird rates aren't really moving the needle to that. Some things that we've tried is really incentivizing by saying, hey, the next 100 attendees will receive, and whether it's something from your sponsor or admission to a special breakfast that you're having or something, that usually drives them a little bit, right? Whether it be a swag item or something from an exhibitor or a sponsor. Or an event that's happening that is one of those very, sought after events. at your conference is usually something that will entice folks. So, maybe it's offering, for the next 50 people, you'll get your seat at X, Y, and Z breakfast.
That's interesting because not everybody's driven by monetary savings. So, that's why understanding a little bit more your value, because, some events we're working on is they're attracting C-suite. I mean, $100 rebate or $200 rebate on a ticket is really not the driver for them, but maybe sitting on maybe one-on-one with that speaker or that keynote speaker that's really well known in that industry, that would maybe trigger them to want to do something about it. So it's really case by case and understanding the audience and what drives them to kind of offer them what will just, push them through that.
And if you have, and if you're struggling with the early bird rate, that's probably an indication that it's not working, right? And to try to reinvent. I think, I've belonged to organizations where we had an algorithm, a calculation, a spreadsheet that we used year after year after year. This is when we do early bird. This is what percentage I'm going to get. And pandemic hybrid events have thrown all of that out the window. So it's time to start bringing out your algebra books and figuring out what that new calculation is. It's not easy, but it's a start, right? Start looking, make sure you collect the data now so that next year you have a starting point to look at. When are people registering? Who are they? At what price point? And what value propositions? Make sure everything is measured and take a look at that, because I think that's going to tell you a lot.
Yes, Rusty, anything you want to add? Otherwise, I'll have you start us off with the next question.
I most people covered it, but I just wanted to mention, as we were getting ready for this, all 5 of us were talking about various conferences and going, are you going? Are you not going? And so it really is Rachel's point. Like, once a certain group or a certain connection you have is going, then you feel more compelled to go. So getting that information out earlier and making it feel like, Rachel's going to be there. So that must be something that's worth considering going. Is those are going to be I think some of the most effective ways of getting people to act early, is to know that those I respect and enjoy learning from will be there.
I am a big draw, Rusty.
Exactly. Right. Just tell us wherever you'll be, and we'll show up.
Exactly. I'll share whereabouts I'm going to be in the next few months.
All right. I'm going to go ahead and start with you, Rusty, for this next question from registration. What are some key trends in event marketing that can help us attract a larger audience? Any tips for attracting a larger audience?
As I've said multiple times, our service is used primarily to help build awareness and to showcase people who are attending and speaking and exhibiting and giving sort of voice and image to them through the use of video. So that's really most of what we think about, is how can we highlight all those different people, give them the ability to be part of the part of that overall marketing. So to us, or to me, that's a major trend. But obviously there's thousands of other things. As Vinu pointed out, there's multiple different types of technologies. There's ways of sorting and sifting through your data. But to me, it still comes down to how can I find the kind of people that I want. If I'm a vendor, I want to find the kind of people that I would be interested in my product. If I'm an attendee, I want to find the kind of information that helps me grow. So, the other piece that I think relates to the last question that I'd mentioned is just, how can I get some exposure that's valuable to me? Like, maybe an early registration type incentive might be just, hey, be featured on our website. If you've registered early, we'll feature you as a little video or an excerpt of your what key trends you're following. I think people will react to that as well. Like, how can I get some visibility and some recognition for the things that we're doing or I'm doing by attending this event? So those are just some thoughts in general.
Wonderful. I'm going to go ahead and open it up to the rest of the panelists. Any key trends you want to highlight to attract a larger audience?
I will say that I've seen a lot of associations bridging the gap between conference attendees and community forums and having that discussion happen before the conference, so they're getting some of that excitement, you're getting that FOMO, and you're getting a little bit of that content for those that are interested in content. But bridging those two and figuring out technically how do you do that, and what's the ease of getting people from your forum to your event. But that's one example of having a platform that you may already have in-house. If it's not a community forum, you may have social media or a LinkedIn group, whatever it is. But look outside of that. What other popular mediums are you using within an organization, and how do you use that to leverage that for your conference or event?
Thanks, Vinny. All right, Maria, I'll have you start us off with a question from Paul. Are some associations in-person events in a position to capitalize and increase in-person participation numbers as a result due to more possible participants working remotely?
You know, I had seen some items in the chat when I was just perusing through, saying that a lot of people want to kind of really be intentional about their time in at a conference because they want to spend more time at home, right? But at the same time, I do think that people are willing to go to conferences more so than in the past because they want to be around people. They want to connect. They've missed that in person. I just think the timing of it is going to shrink as we see more and more. I do think people are more apt to go to conferences. I think we're moving into a time where it's going to be less time at conferences, meaning the number of days they'll be there.
Thanks, Maria. I'll open it up to the rest. Anyone else want to add to that? All right, I'll have us moving on to the next question. Paul also asked what health and safety protocols, if any, are sticking even when most participants have moved on from the mask vaccine requirements. So I'm not really sure who to ask this to, so I'll open it up to our panelists and who wants to chime in on that.
Dealing with a lot of medical associations, we do always have that responsibility of risk management and health and safety on our minds. And it's not a matter of checking to, see who has their mask on or checking vaccination statuses and cards. But it's more so of just putting out the reminders out there that when you're attending an event and you've been traveling this far, just be mindful of, of how you're acting and, where you've been. If you don't feel well in the morning, maybe it's that time to stay in bed. So it's not a matter of checking, but a matter of giving the messages out to be safe and to keep everybody safe and healthy.
Thanks, Maria. All right. Unbelievably, the hour is going by so quickly. So we're going to wrap up this portion of the panel so we can stick to our schedule. If you have more questions for our panelists, please complete the survey that will be dropped in the chat to indicate which panelists you have questions for, and we'll make sure to connect you with them after the session. All right, I've had such a wonderful time hearing from our panelists today, and I'm hoping to get one final piece of insight from them all. And Vinny, I'll have you start us off. What do you see as the future of associations, and how can they get ahead today?
Oh, wow. The future. I don't have my fortune-telling crystal ball here. I think associations just have nowhere but up to go when it comes to delivering content, connecting people, and using technology to do that. So whether it's technology we use in person at an event, or we use technology for virtual events or networking, associations are really, I think, the key provider of content, right? That whether it's for for regulation-wise or industry-wise, that will continue being there. But I just think associations will just now have the tools to do it in a better, more efficient, and greater way.
Thanks, Menu. All right, Rusty, thoughts on the future for associations and how can associations get ahead today?
Yeah, so I'm very bullish on the future of associations, and I always love to point out that the word association means, the people you want to associate with, and it's a natural and very I think very valuable um, structure, and role that associations play. With that said, I was on a webinar last week about attracting Gen Z, and the dramatic stats that we currently have about the 70% of association members are currently over the age of 40. So I think there is a change that it has to come soon to how do we speak a language that is to the up and coming and the pipeline of members for associations. And so to me, that's a big question mark, is changing these tried and true approaches, or what that we think are tried and true, to now attract a younger membership through various things, video, TikToks, more entertaining, more engaging, more I think a lot of things have to have a little more sizzle to them, because that's kind of what the younger potential members would be looking for. So that's my only comment, is the future's bright, but it's going to be a little different, and need to adapt to that kind of newer tech landscape.
Absolutely. Thanks, Rusty. All right, Rachel, what do you see as the future for associations and how can they get ahead today?
I mean, the word adapt sticks to mind, though. What Rusty just said, they need to adapt and innovate and keep up with what's going on, because, like you said, right now it's a lot of the members are, aging and leaving industry, and you have new ones coming in. But new ones coming in, they're not really coming in because they don't find what they're looking for within the association world. So they have to find ways to kind of bring them in and address their needs. They're all into about social impact and responsibility, being socially responsible, environment. Like, there's a lot of things that matter to the new generation that the association need to take into consideration, and different technology and innovative technology that they need to adapt also in order to kind of go where that generation is and going. They're looking for more experiences also. So in terms of events themselves, so the content, they can go watch it and do it themselves if they want to. But going to an in-person event, it has to come with, I've heard the word festivalization of events. So it's more of an experience. It's not just sitting and watching a presenter there. So they have to kind of think outside the box and, create and recreate the whole experience, from events to becoming members. And, we talked about it earlier, they're creating their own little communities and members. Like, what's in it for me? Why do I join a membership and pay a membership fee? In some cases, when you need the CUs and you need all these accreditation and all that, it makes total sense. But in other cases, it's going to be a struggle to kind of keep up and justify the relevance of becoming a member. So, there's a lot to look at here.
Thanks, Rachel. Yes, Maria, thoughts on the future?
20 years ago, when I got into the industry of associations and planning for like-minded individuals, it really is, like Vanu said, their only way is to go up. And I think that is always for associations. And like Rachel and Rusty were saying, engaging your membership and your stakeholders and your audiences, and just making sure that, you're keeping up with everything that is available to you and to your members today. And also being the leader in other areas of society, whether it be corporate responsibility, social responsibility, or DEI, like I had mentioned earlier. There is a way to integrate all of that within associations and to give your members kind of that base and that kind of stepping stone, or that diving board into their careers.
Wonderful. Thanks, Maria. All right. And with that, we have reached the end of our panel. I want to give a big thank you to our panelists for sharing their insights today. I also want to give a big thank you to our audience. Thank you so much for your time. And I hope you enjoyed yourself and learned something that will benefit the work that you do on a daily basis. We do have a packed few months of panels ahead of us, and I hope that you will join us for them. So keep an eye out on the NX Unite website or in the NX Unite LinkedIn page to make sure that you don't miss out on any of these. All right, that is it for me. Once again, a big thank you to you all for joining us, and have a nice rest of your day. Bye, everyone. Thank
Bye
you.
bye.
Bye. Thank you.